Hello everyone. Today I wanted to do a video that I'll touch a little bit on gardening, but most of this is not going to be gardening related, but it's simple things that I have found really improved my life over the last few years. I feel like I've always leaned towards the more like glass half empty, sarcastic, expect the worst, hope for the best type of person, but I do feel like after incorporating some of the things I'm going to talk about into my life, I am more of a glass half full person, which has been a really great transition, I would say. So I'm here in what I'm now calling my cozy corner in my office, and I'm gonna go through each of these. Most of them are free, which is fantastic. And if they're not free, they're not super expensive either. So let's just start off first with gardening. Now, I'm sure if you are a gardener, you already know how being outside in the garden can change your mood. I find that even if things are falling apart and everything's dying, I still feel better than I would not being out in the garden. I also tend to view mishaps in the garden as learning experiences, but I also know there's a lot of you have commented that it's gonna be your first year gardening, and I am so excited for you. I still can't believe how just getting outside with some plants has helped me in so many ways. I have had some huge losses of people I love before gardening and after gardening, and even though it didn't take away the pain, I found that the garden is where I was drawn to, and it kind of helped me through it, if that makes sense. It's like I had a healing space for myself. And also just getting used to the cycle of life and death in the garden, I feel like helps as well. Just taking something from a little seed, getting the use out of it throughout the year, and then kind of putting it to bed at the end of the season. I love that process so much, and it's made me much more aware of my surroundings and much more in the present moment. Now, I am considering putting together a video of all of the things that I've learned about how gardening helps people both mentally and physically. I learned a lot of this in one of my horticulture classes, but I'm also right now reading the book, The Well-Gardened Mind. I mean, I'm maybe about halfway through, but really the takeaway from this is that being out with nature helps a lot of people in a lot of different ways. So let me know if you'd be interested when I get through the rest of this and I can kind of review all of the learnings that I have from both the class and the book. Now let's head into some of the non-gardening related activities, but again, simple things that I've really seen a big improvement from. And the first is probably the first thing I did where I started to notice a difference, and that was taking a free online course called The Science of Wellbeing in March of 2020, when everyone had a lot more time. I'd seen somebody post about this class. It's on Coursera, I believe. I'll link it down below. It should still be free. I just checked the website. It should be free to sign up. I think it says something like an enrollment date, but I'm pretty sure that just updates and it's all self-paced. But it was really fantastic and really started to open my eyes about what really is happiness and what in my life actually brings me happiness versus what I was told should make me happy, but wasn't. So that kind of started my whole process over incorporating more things into my life. I would say this class probably took, a few hours at least to get through. It's not like there's assignments or any things that you have to do, but they do have some tasks in there for you. But again, I took that 5 years ago, and I feel like that really kickstarted everything else and got me into more of the things I'm going to mention next. Next up is meditation. And I'm a person who thought meditation seemed like the worst, most boring thing I could possibly do. I don't know what year it was, but it was at least a decade ago. I got a meditation CD, so that is at least how long ago it was, and this meditation pillow. I put the CD in my CD player, and I think I made it less than a minute before I thought I was too bored and can't do this, and the pillow then just sat around collecting dust and cat hair on it. But then I read a book called 10% Happier by Dan Harris. Everything I mentioned, I'll link down below. And it just talked about how meditation changed his life. He was a reporter, so he was traveling in a lot of stressful situations. I don't think my life is that stressful, but meditation did still help. So after reading that book, I then downloaded the Headspace app, which I'm trying to remember how much it cost. I think when I signed up, there was a sale and it was like $60 to $70 for a year. For me, the cost of that app is worth it. What I like the best is that it has a schedule for you every day. So you open it up and it says, here's what you do, because the fewer steps I can make something, the more likely it is that I will do it. So if I just open the app and it tells me what I'm doing that day, I like that. But there are search features where you can go in and find, like, if I'm feeling anxious, is there a meditation for that? If I'm feeling whatever it might be. So you can find different meditations in there as well. Now, again, I like that because of how it's structured, and I still think it's worth paying for me, but there are so many free resources on YouTube, so many free meditations. Sometimes if it's like the beginning of spring, I'll find a beginning of spring meditation. So I highly recommend YouTube for almost all the things I'm going to mention here to find some free resources, because there are a ton of videos. But if you like structure, an app might be more helpful, but you can find a meditation for almost every single thing on YouTube. What I've noticed is a lot less stress during stressful times. Not only that, but because I feel like I pay attention more to what's happening in my body so that the feelings that I might have don't overwhelm me. I'm able to say, you know what, I'm feeling stressed right now. Let's take some deep breaths, maybe go for a quick walk. But I notice what I'm feeling more than I feel like I did before meditation. And it really has made me a much more calm, much more relaxed person. And I think this is probably the one that's helped me become more of like a glass half full than glass half empty person, because I can always see a solution, or I know that there's an end to this feeling that I'm having, where before I feel like the feelings controlled me. Now I feel like I can have a little bit more control over my feelings. And my favorite thing, when it's warm enough, is to meditate outside in the garden in the morning, because you hear all the birds, all the bees. It's just so great that in the winter I still do meditate, but I really, really miss doing it outside. But if you can start, I mean, even 5 minutes, I only do 10 minutes in the morning. So start off with 5, you can work your way up. I've never done more than like 20 minutes at a time. I know some people can do an hour or more, but just a little bit of time. I also used to be a person that thought if I can't do 20 minutes, then let's not do anything. But starting off small and then kind of working your way up. But I really, really love it. Another thing that I do every morning and every evening is fill out this 5-minute journal, which does not even take me 5 minutes to do. This is the second journal that I've gone through, and let me show you what the pages look like. So at the top, you put in the date. There's either a quote or an activity that it recommends you do. And then in the morning, you fill out 3 things you're grateful for, 3 things that would make today great, and then 1 daily affirmation. And then at night, 3 highlights of the day, and then 1 thing that you learned. And again, something small that I didn't expect to have such a large impact, but now doing this for, let's see when this one started. I think I've been doing this regularly for the last 2 years. Yeah, this first entry is from June of 2024. So I've probably been doing it for about 2 years now. And it's really changed the things that I appreciate. Again, this was kind of tied into the happiness course, but I always thought it was going to be those huge things in life that would make big improvements or make me happy. But it really is the small things. The things that I list most often here that I'm grateful for are things like, well, my husband and my cats, but other than that, sunshine, that it's a nice temperature outside, the butterfly I saw. So it's very small things that do bring me joy, and reminding myself of those, both in the beginning of the day to kind of set the day off to a good start, and then at the end of the day, where even if I'm in a bad mood or something has happened, it forces me to come up with 3 good things that happened that day. And even if it's small, like I had a really delicious cookie, I write that down, and it helps me to reflect on the positive. And I do feel like that's created more of just a positive change within me. Now, as an elder millennial, I like to have something physical that I write in. There are also a lot of apps, and I'm pretty sure there are some free apps where it's just, it might not be the exact same, but you write down at least 3 things that you're grateful for every morning. This maybe is $20. I'll link everything down below, but I just got this on Amazon. Again, this is my second one. I'm almost done, so I need to decide what color I'm gonna get next. Next up is yoga/stretching, which I feel like everybody told me was a very important thing to do growing up, and I was like, I'm young, I don't need it. And then I started getting pain in my upper back from hunching over my computer, or pain in my knees, and I just figured, I mean, I'm 38, but I figured, oh, this is just what happens as you age, and the pain just stays there. I was very wrong, so I started doing yoga and stretching videos on YouTube for free. Some of my favorite channels are Yoga with Adriene and Yoga with Cassandra. I'll link those down below as well. I like Yoga with Adriene to get started because she does have 30-day challenges that are from a few years ago, so you can go through those and know what you're going to do each day. Again, just laying out your schedule, making it really simple. But I found that not also did yoga actually make pain go away, which it's nice to know those things are helpful for your body, but it does also help to clear my mind. I do it in the morning. I will say if I do it at night, I am much more flexible, but if I do it in the morning, I feel like it does ease my mind into the day. I don't grab my phone right away and just doom scroll. I'm taking some time to relax, stretch my body, and that helps me start my day off in a much better mood. And I have found that recently I've gotten more into the just stretching videos. I think because, well, one, I have been trying to lift more weights, but also I walk a lot and my muscles will always be sore and then I don't do anything. So doing those stretching videos has definitely helped my muscles recover a lot faster, feel a lot better. I've had just fewer pain and fewer injuries overall, and it's been really great. So when they told you that stretching and yoga was good for you, they were not lying. So I highly recommend that. I like to do it at home. I don't really like to go to a class. Again, fewer steps if I just hop out of bed onto a yoga mat and turn on the TV versus having to get dressed, especially when it is 0 degrees outside, like it is today, and then going to a yoga studio. But if you like group settings, that works as well. Next up is something I just mentioned, which is walking. Again, something so simple. But I grew up in a suburb where you drove everywhere. In fact, a lot of the streets didn't even have sidewalks on them because they weren't built for walking traffic. I went to college where I walked everywhere, and that was fantastic. And then I moved to Chicago, and I didn't come with my car. So I would walk a little bit to the train, but I wasn't really going for walks just to go for walks. I was walking if I needed to get from point A to point B. And then I would say maybe like 2018, I just started going for walks, and it really helped to clear my head. Anytime if I'm feeling overwhelmed or stressed, I know that if I go for a walk, I will feel better. It is much easier again to do this in the spring, summer, and fall than it is right now. But even in the winter, I have snow pants, I have a ski mask, I have a very heavy coat that I put on multiple layers because walking is so important to how I feel. I mean, not just physically. I'd say physically, I notice a smaller difference, and even emotionally, like moving your body is still good, but I notice when I get done that my brain just feels much more relaxed, and I tend to go for walks like silently. I'm not listening to music. I'm not on the phone with anyone. I'm just walking and observing. And I think that really does help to calm my mind. So if you just want to go for walks, one thing I do wish was a little bit different is that I could go for a walk in nature. I can go for a walk around the streets of Chicago, but there are trees and gardens around that I can look at. But that's one thing that I do wish, is that I lived close enough to some sort of wooded area that I could go walking on trails. There are some parks here though too that I'll try to get to, but most of the time I'm just walking up and down the sidewalks of my neighborhood. Next up are a couple of things that I learned from the book Digital Minimalism, which as someone who, so obviously I film YouTube videos, I post content on Instagram for gardening, but then my day job is running ads on Google and social media. So I'm a person that is on their computer and phone a lot. And so I understand the concept of trying to spend less time in front of screens, but also needing to spend time in front of screens for your job or to connect with people. But I have taken some steps to change how often I'm on my screen, and that has definitely helped. So one thing is that if I'm doing something like right now, I will leave my phone in another room. That way I don't either hear notifications or I'm not tempted to go check it. I also have turned off most of the notifications on my lock screen so that I can choose the time when I go and check my texts, check my emails, whatever it might be, instead of having a whole list of notifications that I have to go through. I've also done a deep clean of apps. So if it's not an app that I feel like helps me in some way, so apps that I have on there are the Headspace app, I have the New York Times Games app because I like those. What else do I have on there? I mean, I have Instagram because again, I use that, but I don't use like Facebook or TikTok for my gardening content, so I don't have those, so I can't just open and check them. I don't have Reddit on my phone because that was a place where I would get very distracted. So the apps that I find were more distracting versus adding something beneficial to my life, I deleted those. So if I ever do want to go on Facebook, I have to go to my computer and open it up, so that doesn't happen as often as it used to. Another recommendation from the book that I did start incorporating and I feel like has helped is to fix one thing a week. So fix something around your house that has been broken, working with your hands instead of just staring at a screen, and how important that is, I think was the key point of the chapter where they talked about this. But so I've learned how to do things again through YouTube, which it's one of those things where I'm learning to fix the things with my hands via a YouTube video, which is on a screen, but I'm using that screen in a way that is productive to me. So I had a closet door that wouldn't close all the way because it has one of those, I'm not gonna use the right terms, like metal balls in the top, and the metal ball was too far down. So I had to put a doorstop in front, and I don't know how long it's been that way, a long time. It probably took me 10 minutes to fix. To find the video, figure out what you do, which is to take pliers and twist the ball up. I did that and I fixed it. So there are so many things like that I feel like I have around my house. Now, I don't do anything that really takes a long time, like an hour. It's those quick things that I have just kind of had on my to-do list forever that I can check them off. Kind of along the same lines, I also, if I'm not fixing one thing per week, I'm organizing one thing per week. I also focus on this a lot more in the winter when I have more time inside. So picking a cabinet. I don't do a whole room, but I'll pick a closet, a drawer, whatever it might be. I like to keep it small so that, again, it's something I can do in like under 30 minutes and feel like I've accomplished something for that day. And then lastly, which I've really just done as I started gardening, is going back to doing things now in my late 30s that I loved doing as a kid. So I gardened, well, I helped my mom and grandpa garden growing up, and starting to do that on my own, I really felt like those childlike parts of me were still here, which they are, and that's great. So I also started, especially when the gardens closed, doing other things that I'd like to do as a kid. So drawing or coloring with pencils, things that it might seem, oh, well, I'm an adult, I don't want to do that anymore, but then I'm doing it and it's so much fun and it relaxes me. And in a similar way, I'll put my phone somewhere else. I might have some music playing, or if I'm outside, I'll just listen to the city nature sounds. But I have found that the more I go back to doing the things that I loved to do as a kid in my free time, the happier I feel. So sitting down and actually finding time to read, I always felt like these things were the first to get crossed off of my list if other things took over. So if I had a busy day, obviously the first thing I was going to remove from my list was sitting down and drawing for 30 minutes. But now I do make sure that at least 2 or 3 times a week, more on the weekend usually, I have some time where I sit down and do one of the activities that just bring me a lot of joy. I didn't know I still loved coloring books so much as an adult, but I really do. And again, it's one of those things that I feel like relaxes my mind, and I always feel mentally better and less stressed, less anxious after I do those activities. So that is my list. I think most of those are free. Maybe you have to like buy the journal if you want, but there's free apps. I will link down everything below so that you can find it. There are also some books that I've read lately, like Let Them I just finished. That was really good, so I'll link down some other books below that I feel like have given me helpful tips on things to implement in my life. But I just wanted to share that because I have seen really big changes in myself, more than I ever really expected. And things like meditation that I used to think were so dumb actually really do work. Let me know if there's anything else that I should add in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.